Hey, good morning everyone. So we're going to start today lying down on your back. And you can take any reclining position that you like, coming into Shavasana or Supta Konasana, or into restorative pose. Just finding something that works for your body today. And once you've found a position that you feel that you can hold for a few moments, you're going to start to settle into that space by connecting to your breath. Starting to bring some control to the breath, creating an equal inhale and an equal exhale. And moving the breath a little bit deeper now into 3-part breath. Inhaling belly, ribs, chest. Exhaling chest, ribs, and belly. Inhaling a wave up the torso. And exhaling a wave down the torso. Trying to connect into those 3 areas of the abdomen equally. So there's the same amount of time and force used at each point of the breath. Noticing if the breath flows more easily in one area and less in another. And see if you can try and balance and even that out. And as you work through your 3-part breath, noticing how the body starts to relax, letting go of micro tension, how the mind becomes more focused, letting go of all of the other thoughts and distractions that are trying to make their way in, and just concentrating on the breath. Finishing off your next round. And then whatever position you were in, you're now going to make your way into a full body stretch by drawing the legs together and down the mat, the arms reaching overhead. And maybe yawning or sighing as you stretch, waking up the body. And then just gently releasing as you are with arms overhead. And we're going to stretch to the right side. So you're going to take the feet over to the right, the hands over to the right, and stretch the body in a banana asana pose. And then releasing to center, taking it over to the left hand side and stretching the side body here. And then coming back to the center, stretching opposite arm and leg. You can start either side. Just make sure you're reaching opposite arm and leg. Crossing the midline of the body, and then over to the other side, stretch. And then gently releasing, taking the knees into your chest. And flattening through the lower back. Little gentle roll from side to side. And then bringing the feet as wide as the mat, the arms in a T shape. Dropping the knees from one side to the other in your windscreen wiper pose. And you can turn the gaze away from the legs if the neck feels comfortable. One more time, and then returning to center again. Take the knees back into the chest. And then lifting the knees and the arms into your upside down tabletop, flattening through the lower back. Hold here, and we're going to take a few deep breaths. Feeling the light activation into the lower belly. And now working into coordination. So you're going to straighten one leg and one arm. And then come back to center, moving to the opposite side. So it's opposite arm and leg. And then back to center. Flow with your own pace. And remember, you can lift the leg as high as you need to make sure the lower back is flat. Once the back is flat, you can start to work your leg towards the floor. Never touching the floor, always just floating above. Do one more on each side. And back to center. Take the knees into the chest. And again, little gentle roll from side to side, relaxing the spine. And then we're going to rock from head to tail, starting very small to begin. Really rounding into the back. Move slowly with control. And the more control you get, try to use your legs less and less. Using the core muscles rather than kicking the feet up. And then making your way to sit. Come into whatever seated position feels good for you. Let's inhale, taking the hands overhead, lifting up from the crown to the tailbone, lightly holding onto your wrist as you gently pull yourself to the side. Lengthen the neck away from the shoulders, gently pulling the shoulders away from the ears. Inhale back to center and then reaching over to the other side. So switching the wrists around And be very gentle with this pull. Not trying to dislodge the joint, just trying to get a little bit of extra stretch into that fascia. And then inhaling back to center. Bringing the hands now behind the head, interlocking fingers, and push the elbows as far back as you can. Start to lift the chest a little bit, lifting the chin a little bit, pressing your head into your hands. And then you're going to exhale, draw the elbows together, tuck the chin to the chest. Start to round your upper back. And then inhale, opening to center, keeping the hands behind the head. Exhale to twist. Pushing the elbow, the back elbow a little bit further back. Really work into the muscles around the rib cage. Let's inhale to center and over to the other side. Make sure there's no weight pressing into the back of the skull, not trying to push the head forward, but rather push the head slightly back. And then inhaling to the center. Draw one elbow to your hip. Back to center and over to the other side. And back to center. Releasing the hands down, bring the soles of your feet together, and then separate the space between the heels and the hips so you're in quite a wide position. We're going to lightly hold onto the toes as you gently forward fold. Don't worry to go too deep at this point. Just using this as a warming up position. Starting to soften any tight areas. Notice where the tension is. Maybe hips, maybe inner thighs, maybe lower back. And just start to soften and release that space. Inhale, taking yourself back up to center, coming over onto hands and knees. Spreading the fingers wide as you draw the knees underneath the hip bones. Let's flow through a few rounds of cat-cow pose. And then making your way back into neutral spine. Let's take the right fingers and the left toes forward and back, lightly touching onto the floor. You can flex the toes, keep the palm facing in, lift into lower belly, and then at the same time lifting the arm and the leg. Very slowly coordinating to lower the arm and the leg to the floor. Inhale to lift, and exhale to lower. One more time to lift, and then we're going to hold it up. You can stay here, or you can hold onto the foot coming into the bind. If you're in the bind, you turn the gaze forward. If you're in the balance, you keep one arm forward, one leg back, and the gaze at the floor. Let's inhale to extend and then exhale to gently release down. Opening the knees wide, bringing the big toes to touch, and sliding the hips down towards the heels. Releasing chest and chin to the mat. Slightly tuck the tailbone and feel as though there is an anchoring weight drawing the hips towards your heels. Let's lift back up into tabletop, onto hands and knees, checking your alignment here. Spreading the fingers, pinky finger edging towards the outside of the mat. We're going to bring the left hand and the right leg out, tucking toes on the floor, palm facing in. Lift into lower belly and then floating up with the inhale breath. Coordinate the movement to gently lower. Inhaling to lift. And flowing with your own pace. Lifting up one more time, and then reaching the hand back to hold onto the foot. Let's lift the leg up. Open the chest, open the throat, and even get lighter into your supporting hand and foot. Reaching your hand and leg forward and back, and exhaling to the mat. Coming back into child's pose. And actively pushing your hands into the floor to slide your hips to the heels. This might lift the chest a little bit, that's fine, but keep anchoring the chest back towards the earth, even if it doesn't touch. Relax your neck, relax the space either side of the spine. And then inhale, lifting back up to center. Bring the hands underneath the shoulders, the knees underneath the hips. Tucking toes, let's lift up and back into downward facing dog. So as you lift up, lift the knees to begin, rounding into the back, tuck the tailbone slightly, slide the hips back, and then lift the hips to the sky. Let's heel toe the legs a few times here. Starting to stretch out through the back of the hamstrings. And remember, if you've got any shoulder issues, you can stay in your child's pose instead of downward facing dog. Still getting stretch into the back, into the legs, without placing any pressure into the shoulders. From here, sink the heels to the floor, looking forward. We're going to take little steps to bring the feet to the outer edge of the mat. So we're walking wide to the front of the mat. Lift the chest open here, and then exhale to forward fold. So we're in a wide fold. Really allow the torso to get heavier and heavier. Lift up onto the fingertips in flat back. Draw the heels in slightly so the feet are at a 45 degree. And then sitting down into a squat. And you can keep the hands to the floor in front of you. For some of you, the heels will come up. That's okay. Just keep anchoring down as best you can. From here, lift the hips back up to the sky, and then turn the toes in line with the heels. Heel toe the feet in, hip distance wide, lifting into flat back. Remember, the hands can come onto the shins, giving you a little bit more space if you need a bit of extra stretch into your lower back. And then exhale to forward fold. Let's inhale the hands overhead, standing up tall into Tadahastasana. And then exhaling the hands to the heart. Inhale, hands overhead. And exhale to forward folds. Inhale, halfway lift. And exhale to fold. Inhaling the right leg into lunge. And exhaling into downward facing dog. Breathing in your down dog as you flick the tailbone to the sky. Lifting up onto the tips of the toes. Bend your knees, round your back like a cat as you slowly lower the knees to the floor. Inhale, cow pose, dropping the belly, lifting the face and hips. Exhale into cat pose, rounding into the back, squeezing into the tummy muscles. Float the knees off the floor and then slide the hips back before lifting them up into downward facing dog. Taking the right leg to the sky. And you're going to step your foot to the outer edge of that right hand. Sinking down into a wide lunge. So the hips lower, the chest is going to lift up, broadening the front body. Push your front knee firmly against your arm. Push your arm against your knee. On the inhale breath, step the back leg to the outer edge of the left foot, coming into your squat. If you're comfortable to bring the hands together at the heart this time, you can do that. Otherwise, keep the hands on the floor. Now press the elbows into the knees, opening the inner thighs a bit deeper. Moving into forward fold, hands to the floor, hips to the sky, and then heel toe the feet, hip distance wide. Float the chest up, flat back, and exhale to forward fold. Inhale the hands all the way up to the sky, Tadahastasana. And exhaling hands to heart. Inhale, hands up. And exhale to forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift. And exhale to fold. Inhaling left leg back, followed by right into downward facing dog. Stretching the heels towards the earth, externally rotating the inner thighs, flick the tailbone to the sky. And sit up onto the tips of the toes, bending your knees, curl the tailbone as you lower down. We're stretching not only the tops of the feet here, but engaging into the core muscles as well. Let's inhale straight into cow pose, lifting the hips and chest, and exhaling into cat pose. Tucking the toes, slide the hips back, and then lifting the hips up to the sky. On your inhale, take the left leg to the sky, and then stepping the foot to the outer edge of the left hand. Press your knee against your arm against your knee as you sink the hips and lift the chest. Stepping into squat, bringing the back foot forward and opening up through the heart. Feel as though you're just lightly tucking your tailbone in your squat pose. Just a little bit. This is really releasing into the lower back. Moving your way towards forward fold, hands down, hips up, heel, toe, feet, hip distance wide, lifting the chest to get length into the back, and then exhale to forward fold. Let's inhale the hands all the way up to the sky. And exhaling hands to heart. Inhale, hands up. And exhale to fold. Inhale, halfway lift. And exhale to fold. Float your right heel towards your hip. And then very slowly start to send that leg back into warrior one. So the toes are pointing forward. Float the hands up. Squaring your hips towards the front edge of the mat. Lift out of the lower back and really reach the torso up towards the sky. On your inhale breath, bring the hands into cactus. And then drawing the hands behind you, you can hold onto your wrists, your forearms, your elbows, or you can come into a reverse namaste. Straighten into the front leg. Might want to step the back foot in a little bit. And then lengthen the body forward, coming towards Parsvottanasana. Pausing at a flat back position to get extra length into the torso. And then only if you feel that you've got space will you start to fold a bit deeper. If you don't have that space available, stay in the flat back. Squeezing your inner thighs together. Inhale, lifting halfway up and releasing the fingertips to the floor. Again, you can adjust your stance if it's not quite right yet. Keeping the right hand in line with the front and back foot, so it's creating a corner. You're now going to float the left hand onto the hip and then push your hip back, reaching your head forward as you turn the chest open. So you're facing towards your inner thigh. If you've got the space, you can float that left hand up to the sky. Releasing the hands to the floor, step yourself back into a plank pose. Holding into the plank for a moment. Squeeze the thighs, squeeze the glutes. Become very, very light in this pose. And it's lower knees, chest and chin all the way down to the mat. Bringing the fingers out to the side. Bend the elbows so they're facing to the ceiling. On the inhale breath, lifting into wide cobra. So we don't go too high in this position. Soften into the shoulders. Lengthen into the neck. Exhale to gently release down. Bring the hands under the shoulders this time. And inhale to float up. Keep the elbows bent deeply, pushing the pubic bone into the floor. And gently releasing down. If you've got space, bring the hands a bit further down next to the rib cage. If the back felt like it was getting enough of a stretch, stay with the hands under the shoulders. Let's inhale, floating up. Keep pushing the shoulders away from the ears, depressing into the trapezius muscles, and gently releasing down. Slide your way into child's pose. And holding here. Making your way into downward facing dog, tucking the toes, sliding the hips back to the heels, and then lifting them to the sky. On the inhale breath, taking the right leg up. And step the foot to the outer edge of the right hand. Let's drop the back knee down to the floor. And then start to twist towards your right side. You can place your hand onto your knee, pushing the right leg away. You can even come onto the knife edge of that front foot. Opening up the heart. Returning to center, place your hand down, lifting the back knee off the floor, and then stepping into squat. Joining hands together at the heart. And now, depending what your squat is feeling like, you may want to just hold still. You may want to just gently twist from side to side, lightly pushing the knees away. So similar to what we were doing in that lunge position, this is going to work a bit more deeply into the lower back, into the inner thighs. This is not comfortable for everyone, so maybe you want to hold into stillness instead. That's fine. Just working into space that feels good for you. And then when you are ready, returning to center, and we'll take this to forward fold. Take a few breaths in your forward fold. From here, you can even interlock the fingers around the big toes into Padagusthasana, flicking the tailbone to the sky as you reach your head to the earth. Lift the shoulders lightly away from your ears. Releasing the hands and then lifting all the way up into Tadasana, hands overhead. And exhaling, hands to heart. Let's inhale, hands up. And exhale, forward fold. Inhale, half lift. And exhale to forward fold. Floating the left heel to the glute. And then slowly stepping it back into Warrior One. Facing the short edge of your mat. Lift up out of the lower back. Try to reduce the curve lifting pubic bone, reaching the hands behind the ears if you have space to do so. Square the hips deeply to the front of the mat. Let's inhale the elbows into cactus. And then bringing the hands behind, holding on to opposite wrists, forearms, or elbows. Remember to switch the hands around so you are in the opposite alignment to the other side, or coming into reverse namaste. Stretch into your front leg as you exhale to forward fold. Stop in a flat back, hold here. Even if you can go deeper, hold here for a moment. Square the hips, work the inner thighs, create length into the torso, and then gently fold a bit deeper if there's space. Lifting halfway up as you release the fingers to the floor. You can adjust your stance if you need to. And then bringing the right hand into the hip. Push the hip back. Left hand stays in line with both feet, creating a corner. And you start to twist the chest open to that right side. So the right hand on the hip keeps pushing that right hip back so that we don't collapse into the right torso. If you've got the space, you can float the top arm up. If not, keep the hand on the hip. Let's release the hands to the floor and stepping your way back into plank pose. Floating the body in plank. Making your way to lie down on the mat, knees, chest and chin, all the way down. Okay, and coming into wide cobra, hands to the sides. So we turn the elbows up to the sky and push the shoulders down away from the ears at the same time. On the inhale breath, floating up. Making sure the back of the neck feels long. And then slowly releasing down. Hands under the shoulders this time. Wrap the elbows into the rib cage. On the inhale, floating up. So we don't use the hands until we've lifted the back as high as it can go on its own. Then we press lightly to the hands to help lift the chest just a little bit higher. Remember, locking the elbows and letting the shoulders sink to the ears is not the correct alignment. Need to bend the elbows, retract the shoulders, and open up the chest. Gently releasing down from here. We'll come into another round of cobra. You can either keep the hands as they are or bring them slightly back in line with the rib cage. Inhale to lift. Use the back muscles and then the arm and hands. Gently releasing down and making your way into child's pose. From here, lift up to sit on the shins and then swing your legs out in front of you. You're going to come to sit in a cross-leg position. Just remember which leg that you are starting with. And working this into a very gentle forward fold. Bring the hands in front of you. And you're going to slowly melt down to the floor. Bending the elbows towards the body. If the elbows touch the floor, that's great. If they don't, just keep the elbows bent and released. Breathe into the back body and really allow yourself to become heavy. Connecting into that exhale, and with each exhale breath, see if you can surrender a little bit more. Inhale to lift back up, and then switch the legs around. So we generally start with our more comfortable side, and the second side is often the one that is a bit more resistance. So again, forward folding and releasing to the mat. And then slowly lifting back up. We're going to work into a fire log pose now. If you have issues with the hips, you're going to repeat what we just did with the legs crossed and forward fold. If the hips have got a bit more space, and you can work into a fire log pose. Let's start with the left leg up. That's generally everyone's tighter side. So now you're going to stack your heel onto your knee. You're going to check that the shins line up with one another. This bottom foot often comes in. When you bring this bottom foot in, you'll feel how that completely releases the pose. There's a lot less tension here. So that is an option if you have a lot of stress in your hip. But ideally, we'd like to work into a space where the shins are stacked one on top of the other. Keep the feet lightly flexed. And you should really feel that there's a bit of tension happening into this space. If sitting upright is enough for you and you don't need to go deeper, stay as you are. If you'd like to, you can start to lean forward. And leaning forward, you'll feel how there's this activation into piriformis of that top hip. Maybe even resting your elbow to your top leg. There is the option of bringing the elbows to the floor in front of you, but this is a gentle flow class, so that's not the intention today. If you just have a hyper flexible hip girdle, you can go for it. But for most people, this is quite intense and enough to stay here. And then you're going to lift yourself back up to center. Stay with the legs in this alignment, but now you're going to bring your top foot in towards your glutes and your bottom foot in towards your glute. So we're now in a half lotus pose. Again, this might not be comfortable for you depending on what's happening with your ankle and your knee. Then sit into a regular cross-leg position with your left leg in front. So we're going to lift up nice and tall and twist to the left side. You can lightly hold onto the knee and gently rotate the body. If you feel that you've got space in the shoulder, you then reach the left hand behind and hold onto the top big toe. And then returning to center from here. You're going to open the feet out into a V shape. Flexing the feet, lift your bum off the floor, slide the hips slightly back, and then sitting down again so that you've got a lengthened lumbar area, and gently forward folding. And again, we're working with a gentle flow class today, so the energy of the class is softer than if we were doing a strong vinyasa. Sometimes it's nice just to allow yourself the space to not have to push forward to go deeper. Sometimes it's nice just to sit in the space that you're in. And inevitably allowing yourself to stay in the space that you're in, you feel a release regardless. And let's come back up to sit. Taking it to fire log on the other side. So now we'll have the right leg in front if you're just doing your cross leg position. Or if you're coming into your fire log pose, the right heel is going to lift to the knee. Bring the bottom foot forward so that you're in the same alignment and that the shins are parallel. So the left and right hip are often very different from one another. You might find open on one side and a little bit less on the other. Just work with what you have. You can stay sitting upright, or you can lean a little bit forward, or you can lean all the way forward. And then coming back up to sit. Let's take us into the half lotus now. So bringing both feet in towards the hips or the glutes. If this is not going to work for your ankle or your knee, sit in your regular cross leg position with the right leg in front. So now we twist to the right side, lifting up tall, and exhale to twist. And lightly press against that outer thigh to help with the rotation. And if the shoulder feels okay, you can wrap the arm around to hold onto the big toe. And then returning to center. Let's take the legs out into a wide V. Lifting the hips, sitting the sitting bones back down to lengthen into the lower back. Let's take the left foot to the inner thigh. So we're in our Janu Shirsasana, the rotated variation. Bringing the right elbow to the inside of the thigh and the left arm over the ear. Working into the twist as primary focus and into the fold as the secondary focus. Inhaling to center, bring the hand behind you and then lifting the hips, taking the top arm overhead. Gently releasing yourself back to sit and then opening into the opposite side. Left leg out, right foot in, twisting to the left as you fold over that straight leg. Inhale up, making your way into the kneeling dancer pose. And gently releasing back to sit. Coming into our Baddha Konasana pose. So we started the class in our Baddha Konasana and are ending the class in the same posture. This time, take it a bit deeper. You walk your hips and your heels towards one another to intensify the opening of the adductor muscles. Press the feet firmly against one another, matching big toe to big toe, baby toe to baby toe. And push the knees down smoothly. So it's very important that we don't bounce the legs here, but push them down in a smooth, elongated movement. Inhale to lift the chest and gently forward fold. So it is these long, smooth holds that allows the fascia to elongate. In the myotendinous joint, that's where the muscle and the tendon connect together, is a substance called the Golgi tendon, which is part of the relaxation system of the body. And when you hold these poses for a long time, the Golgi tendon sends out a signal to say that the muscle and the fascia can start to relax and therefore stretch. It's inhale, coming back up to center. Draw the knees together and then extend your legs in front of you. Coming down to lie on your back. You can either lie straight to the floor, you can bend your knees as you roll down, or straighten the legs, whatever feels best for you. And all the way down to the back. Let's take the knees into the chest. And then coming into a single leg twist, straighten the left leg back to the floor, right knee stays to the chest, bring the right arm to the side as you drop your knee to the left. Returning to the center, take both knees in, neutral spine, and then extend the right leg. Left arm to the side, and exhale to drop into the twist. Returning to the center, taking both knees into the chest, into neutral spine. And then making your way into relaxation. You work in your Shavasana, your Konasana, or in your restorative pose, whatever feels best for you. Just adjust yourself accordingly, make sure that you feel warm. Make sure that you feel supported. Make sure that you feel even. Legs are spread evenly, the hips are square, shoulders are square, the arms are spread evenly. Making sure your neck is in a comfortable space. Maybe you'd like to place a towel under the back of the skull to create extra space for the back of the neck. Once you are ready to commit to a pose, take a lovely deep breath in through the nose. Hold Hold the breath. And sigh. Finding stillness in that space. Keeping your eyes softly closed. Slowly start to deepen and lengthen your breath. Feeling your belly rise and fall. Gently running your thumb over the tips of your fingers, moving your toes, ankles and wrists, working into a full body stretch, feet together, arms overhead. And notice the difference between this full body stretch and the one we did at the beginning of the class. Bending your knees, rolling onto your side. Holding comfortably into your fetal position for a moment. And then inhale to lift up into a comfortable seated position. Drawing your hands together at your heart center in Anjali Mudra. And close the class by chanting Om once and Shanti 3 times. Taking a deep breath in. Raising your hands to your third eye. The light in me sees and honors the light in you. Lowering your hands to your lips, to your heart, to your mat, bowing forward in recognition of your practice. Blinking eyes open, inhaling to sit. Namaste.